The Meadow is a top-down tower defense game, in which the player must save the woodland creatures and protect their enchanted meadow from demonic forces. The player must use their magic to try and save and protect as many of the woodland creatures as possible, using the very forest as traps and weapons. There are two paths through which demons and woodland creatures will spawn and travel. They are on opposite sides of the map, requiring the player to simultaneously defend from two different directions. The player will only need to defend from one side at a time at first, but as the game goes on and in later waves, the player must defend from both directions simultaneously. Woodland creatures will spawn periodically, but also randomly and travel the same routes as demonic invaders. Woodland creatures move slower than demon soldiers, making it very important to have good turret defenses in place to allow the woodland creatures to reach the meadow. As the population of woodland creatures increases within the meadow, the player gains access to new traps and powers, but the demonic forces come in ever greater numbers. The number of demonic enemies start low in earlier waves, but increases with each wave. In addition, in later waves, new enemies start to appear and continue to become more common in greater numbers as the wave number increases. The exact number of enemies that will show up in the in-game waves are unknown due to balancing issues, but will be many, and they will be a mix of higher tier demons and the demon soldiers. The player's goal is to protect the meadow at all costs. To aid in this cause, the player must save as many woodland creatures as possible, as their population within the meadow directly increases the power of the player's magic. Each woodland creature that is saved gives the player an additional ability point. The player may use these ability points to purchase powers or turret types. These powers and turret types may cost vary from ability or turret. The player begins with the base plant turret by default. The player can unlock magic and assign them to hotkeys from which they will activate them and then choose where the magic cast will. The antagonists for the meadow are the demons of the dark woods. They hunger for the souls of woodland creatures and the life force of the meadow and must be stopped at all costs. They have three different forms in the demon soldier, which is the basic grunt who mindlessly walks along the path with a singular purpose of killing the woodland creatures. The second is the behemoth. This demon moves much slower than a demon soldier, but has far more health and attacks and destroys turrets. The behemoths are best killed with a combination of magic and turret fire. Lastly, we have the kitten assassin demon. This demon disguises itself as a woodland creature, but when it reaches the meadow, it reveals its sinister nature and tries to kill the woodland creatures. The player cannot place turrets within the meadow. The meadow is similar to other tower defense games like Incursion or Gymcraft in that it's a 2D top-down tower defense game. However, unlike other tower defense games, when enemies get through the outer defenses, you don't lose points and enemies despawn. Instead, the enemy continues living and must actively try to kill the enemy before it kills any of your woodland creatures in the meadow, while continuing to try to keep the demonic hordes out. This gives your defenses a sense of urgency and keeps the game from being about optimal defensive setup strategies and also active combat as well. The risk for the meadow is that it will require quite a few unique art assets that will take time to piece together. This risk is lessened by the fact that I decided to go with a 2D version, requiring less intensive artwork and animation work. That concludes my pitch for the meadow, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.